So I started with a dead tree, cut them down. These are cedar logs right here. Then I have them cut into at the mill into 1 and 2 inch slabs, rough cut. But you got to square them up, sand them, flatten them. A lot of extra work, but you do save a lot more money, even though this still is fairly expensive. Then on these bigger ones, where I'm going to have this hook and ring set, I'm going to have just this one board, but I'm going to put 7 holes this side and 7 holes this side, but you only want to go down about 1/8 of an inch when you go down with your Forstner bit. This board here is 14.5 long by 11 wide. And again, I measure center, put a mark here, and I'll use a Forstner bit and put a 1 inch dowel in here, and I will take this down about half the thickness of the wood. Now to get my 7 slots that I want to get, I'm measuring in about 1.5 inches up and 1.5 inches in, and I put a mark there. Same way here. Measure this about 1.5 inches up and right at about 1.5 inches in. So it's 1.5 inches in, 1.5 inches up, and I put my mark. Because if you use a 1.5 inch Forstner bit and make these, and you're too far off here to the side, when you make that hole about 1/8 inch deep, it's going to come off the board, and you don't want that to happen. So after getting my mark 1.5 inch up, 1.5 inch out, I just punch it to where I know where I'm going to be my starting point. Then my neighbor bought me this. It's a gauge. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slots, and be able to mark everything. But what you do is you get it set with your 2 marks right here into these corners. And supposedly that gives you your equal distance. And I have used it. So there's a little slack in it, but it gets it close enough for all my markings and my gauges, so it keeps it pretty well even. So as long as you keep those holes lined up, then I just make a little spot as I go down to get them equally across. So now I'm drilling holes with Forstner bits, only about 1/8 of an inch deep, so that the shot glass or whatever you use, because some of them are different size, will fit in it. Bit's getting dull, and this saw drills just about had it. But then I make these 1.5 inch holes about 1/8 inch deep, to where you can set your shot glass inside of it. First ones Here I'm using my old drill press that I bought at a garage sale for $20. And I put a new cord on it, repainted it, and got 90% of the rust off of it. But the thing is super powerful, where it can actually grab a board and twist it and flip it around and break your knuckles. That's why I like using the one that's a little bit weaker at times, in case one of these Forstner bits grab, which one of them does have a tendency to grab. But I'm finishing cutting these holes here. They're only about 1/8 inch deep, and there's 7 of them. Be 7 on each side. And I'm using a 1/2 inch Forstner bit so it will hold shot glasses and things, because some of the bottoms are made a little different. Then the hole here for the stand is a 1-inch dowel, and I cut it with a 1-inch Forstner bit. Now I'm going to do a small round over on the router just to knock the edges off. Not going to do it on the bottom so the stuff will lay flatter, but only on the top so nobody hits their knuckles or cuts himself on these sharp corners. Then after you cut your dowel, I cut mine at about 13 inches, and you have to realize you're going halfway through this board and this board. Depends on your thickness. These are 1-inch boards, so I'm going about a half inch down through them, so that 13-inch dowel becomes 12 inches. And between the whole entire thing, it's 14 inches high. And the dowel ends up about 12, which that's what I expected it to do. Then when you pound these down on here, you don't want to hammer right on the dowel or the wood. You want to take another block, put it on top, and hammer and beat on that block till you get it pretty much square. And it's not going to be completely square, especially if you have to drill any of the holes by hand. So I take a right angle and I check it, and sometimes even these are a little bit warped or a little bit out, so I want to make sure it's very, very close. So I measure it all the way around, and if I have to, before the glue sets, after I put it in the hole, I push them over a little bit to get them leveled up, which that's what I've been doing, and those are very close. Then I take a level and I put it up on top. You want that bubble to be very close to center, which it is. It won't be perfect, but it'll be close enough where you won't hardly notice a difference. Then after that, I'll measure up about 2 or 3 inches depending on where I want to put my hooks. And I'll put my little eyelets in here about 1 inch in and centered. Then I'll make the strings and reattach everything else to it. These are the hook and ring games. These are extra nice because you got 7 circles on each side where you can set your cup or glass or peg or whatever you want to do. And you can play 2 or 3 different ways on the games. These are made out of maple. This is cedar. This is black walnut. You won't find these online. If you do, you'd be very rare. Most 99% of what I see is made out of pine and stained. And I like having the clear natural color. Well, I put my second coat on of this hook and loop. And these are hard maple, black walnut, and eastern red cedar. Then once I've got that done, to put this hook in here, I want this drill bit, I don't want it to go any deeper than what the threads are on here, so I got a piece of tape to mark it so I know about how deep I'm going to drill that hole. Then once you put your string on, you want to leave enough extra so you're not too short. You tie it up here in this nylon string, and to keep it from unraveling, also when you're putting your string and stuff on here, it's nylon string, you cut it, tie it up the top, I find the best way. The ring you want this is actually a 1 1/4 inch ring, and you want it to be about centered or so. You don't want this so long that it goes and wraps around the whole entire end. But once you tie your string here, then I take a lighter, and a little bit of the excess that's still sticking out, I light it and let it melt, and then make sure it's out before it hits this string here. It'll just burn through it. That way it won't unravel and come apart on you. But you just want this just enough to where it just actually is about centered of the hole and just would barely hit in here.